Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to today's reading from Brilliant as the Sun, Retelling of Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 3, Part 2, Two Avatars. Going to start chapter 29 today, Bhakti Yoga. Shri Shri Krishna Balram ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Shyam Sundar Lalita Vishakha ki Jai. Kapila explains the process of Bhakti Yoga and how it can be mixed with the modes of nature. He then speaks about time. Kapila returned a couple of hours later and again sat on the veranda with his mother. Verses 1 to 2. Devahuti said, Mighty Lord, during the last 2 days you have explained the nature of material existence and the characteristics of spirit according to the Sankhya philosophy. Kindly now explain the Bhakti Yoga. Shri Shri Gaura Nitai ki Jai. Explain the Bhakti Yoga, which is the goal of knowledge. Verse 3, Devahuti paused, absorbed in thought. Kapila could tell she had something more on her mind, so he waited. Taking a deep breath, she said, Please also describe, both for my sake and for the benefit of people in general, the conditioned soul's continued journey in the cycle of birth and death towards the darkest regions of material existence. Kapil looked at her quizzically. Why would she want to hear such morbid talks? She said, Myself and others like me are so attached to material enjoyment that we need to hear about the painful consequences of sense gratification. Devahuti thought of her brother-in-law, Daksha. He was so proud of being a pious man, but his religious rituals were insufficient to protect him from the influence of all destructive time. She wanted Kapila to dispel the delusion of such foolish people. Verse 4, I would also like to hear about eternal time, which is your expansion. Many try to escape its destructive influence by performing pious works to attain higher material planets. As she looked up at Kapila, the afternoon sun bathed him in a bright effulgence. Awed by his vision, she said, My dear Lord, you are just like the sun, for you can illuminate the ignorance of the conditioned souls deprived of transcendental knowledge. They sleep eternally in the darkness of the material existence. Without your intervention, they continuously engage in materialistic actions for which they must suffer. Thus they are fatigued and confused. Verses 6 to 8, Kapila smiled broadly, happy that his mother was concerned for others and not just for her own salvation. He too felt compassion for the conditioned souls. He said, Noble lady, according to the aims of the performer under the different modes of nature, there are various kinds of devotional service. When bhakti is performed in ignorance, one worships me in order to harm those toward whom he is envious or angry. Or he may worship me proudly, considering himself the greatest devotee and desiring to prove himself such by his practices. A real devotee simply desires to please me. So that is the difference between the devotional service of a person to person. To please Lord is the real devotion, and to just try to prove themselves by the practices is a kind of proud devotional service which is not going to please the Lord. One who performs bhakti with any other intention is known as separatist. In other words, his interests are separate from mine. Indeed, he thinks the purpose of bhakti is to induce me to satisfy his desires. Verses 9 to 10. When bhakti is performed in passion, one worships me in order to achieve wealth, fame, or other facilities for material enjoyment. Even those executing bhakti in goodness and are separatists, although they practice bhakti and execute their worldly duties as a sacrifice to me, their intention is to attain liberation from the cycle of birth and death. Verses 11 to 13. Pure bhakti means to be spontaneously attracted to hearing the transcendental names and qualities of the Supreme Lord who resides in everyone's heart. This is the Raganuga Bhakti. Attracted to hearing the transcendental names and qualities of Supreme Lord who resides in everyone's heart, the pure devotee executes bhakti without interruption or personal motivation. His ecstatic love flows toward me like the Ganges flow towards the ocean. Unless there is an opportunity to serve me, such a devotee will not even accept liberation. Despite my offering it to him, this includes living in my spiritual abode, possessing the same powers as me, becoming my personal associate, having a form equal to mine, or oneness with me. Verses 14 and 15. By attaining this pure stage of bhakti, my devotees automatically overcome the influence of the three modes of material and achieve a spiritual state like mine to others. Devahuti asked her son to describe the prescribed duties. Kapila said in verse 16, one should regularly visit the temple to see my deity forms. He should touch the deity's lotus feet and worship him with gifts of fruits or flowers as well as prayers. One should see every living entity as spiritual by seeing me as within them, but simultaneously have the discrimination to renounce bad association. Verse 17, the devotee must show the greatest respect to the spiritual master and the previous acharyas or great teachers. He should be compassionate to those who are poor in spiritual understanding by offering them knowledge, steadily controlling the mind and senses. One should carefully follow the rules and regulations given in the scripture. One should befriend those who are spiritually like-minded so that in their association he can discuss spiritual topics. Verses 18 and 19, these discussions should be on spiritual knowledge received from authentic sources. The devotee must also chant my holy names without duplicity. He should associate with other devotees. In other words, he should not be thinking how to increase his own importance or wealth, nor should he consider himself better than others. Although he should never behave maliciously toward anyone, he should not associate intimately with those not serious about spiritual advancement. When one is endowed with all these transcendental attributes, his consciousness will be purified, then his mind will become spontaneously attracted to hearing my name and qualities as I previously described. A gentle breeze blew over them, carrying the fragrance of champak flowers. Kapila closed his eyes as he breathed in the sweet aroma. Verse 20. After a few moments, he said, just as this breeze carrying the fragrance of flowers captures our sense of smell, similarly, When one's consciousness is saturated with devotion, one captures the super soul who is present everywhere. Verse 21, Kapila paused, his face assuming a deeply thoughtful look. He spoke gravely. There is something aspiring devotees must know. I am situated in the hearts of all beings as a super soul. If one worships my deity form in the temple but disrespects other living beings, his so-called worship is simply imitation. Verse 22 to 24, such a person's worship is in the mode of ignorance and is compared to one who offers oblations into ashes. In other words, it is useless and gives him no benefit. Even though he offers me respect, if he hates others, not seeing me within their hearts or how they are his spiritual equal, he is a separatist. Due to his inimical behavior towards others, he attains neither peace of mind nor happiness. Such a person may even worship my deity with proper rituals and paraphernalia, but he never pleases me if he does not see my presence in all beings. Devahuti's mind drifted to memories of her husband Kardam. Whether he was worshipping their deity during their many years absorbed in family life or venerating Krishna by his austerities and meditation at other times, he was imbued with gratitude and love toward the Lord. That loving mood was reflected in his compassionate dealings with all living creatures. If he saw anyone hungry, he would offer them Krishna's prasadam. If he saw any creature hurt, he would help it. And he would always speak with others about Krishna. Her royal father had similar qualities. He would make sure that ample food was offered to deities in all the temples throughout the kingdom several times a day. Afterwards, the deities' remnants were generously distributed to people throughout the kingdom. Such compassion toward others was natural for both her husband and father, as it overflowed from their love for Krishna. What though about those who were not as advanced in their devotional service, who did not yet feel real love for Krishna nor spontaneous compassion for others? So Mother Devahuti's questions are so relevant for all of us. Verse 25, picking up on this point, Kapila said, if one is not advanced, he should do his duties and worship me with the desire to see me in his own heart and in the hearts of others. Verse 26, Kapila fell silent. He closed his eyes and his demeanor became serious as the blazing fire of death. I cause great fear to whoever makes the least discrimination between himself and other living entities because of bodily differences. Verse 27, opening his eyes, he looked at each person present, stressing to them the secret to spiritual success. Therefore, by charity, by respecting superiors, and by friendship to all, one should elicit my favor, or I abide in everyone's heart as the super soul. Devahuti wondered how one could avoid discrimination based on the body. Should one treat vicious creatures like snakes in the same way as one did benevolent well-wishers? Kapila addressed this doubt. Although there is spiritual equality among all beings, there are gradations of material bodies. Understanding these enables one to apply my instructions with discrimination. For example, although one will be friendly to appear by speaking confidently to him, it is not expected that a person will befriend a tiger in the same way. You are friendly to animals by giving them prasadam. So this is one way we can be friendly to the animals. We can offer the prasadam to the animals. So offer them some vegetables or simple grains which they can eat. Offer them first to Lord and then give them to eat. Verses 28 and 29, listen as I explain the material gradations. Among all life forms, the least developed bodies are those of inanimate objects like stones or mountains. Superior to them are beings which exhibit vital functions like respiration. Above them are those with awareness. Above them are those with functioning senses. And among these are further gradations. The least developed among them are those with only the sense of touch. Above them are those who also possess the sense of taste. More developed are those who can also smell. And still more developed are those who can hear. Verses 30 and 31. Among those life forms in which all the sense organs function, there are further gradations. The least among these are those who can identify differences between colors and forms. Higher are those who have teeth in the lower and upper jaws. Still higher are those with many legs, and more advanced are those with 4 legs. Above them are human beings. Among humans there are further gradations. The followers of Varnashram regulations are better than the non-followers. Among the followers of Varnashram, Brahmins are the best, and among those who study the Vedas are the best. Among these, those who understand the Vedas' real purpose are the best. Verse 32 and 234, higher than a Brahmin who knows the Vedas' purpose is one who can dispel others' doubts and confusions. Still higher is that Brahmin who strictly follows all Brahminical principles. Still better is the one who gives up worldly association and does not desire to personally benefit from his religious acts. Highest of all is one who has no interest separate from mine. He dedicates his body, mind, possessions, and words fully to my service. He never claims ownership of anything, sees me always as his master, and acts strictly according to my desire. Such a perfect devotee offers respect to every living entity because he knows that Krishna resides within them all as super soul. So, who is the highest? Highest is the perfect devotee of the Lord, who knows that Lord resides in each one of them. He is Samadarshi. He can see the super soul in every living entity. Verses 35 to 36 now. My mother, dear mother, whether one practices the 8 limbs of Ashtanga Yoga or activities of Bhakti Yoga, one must do so until he attains this perfect stage. Then by serving me in complete harmony with my desire, he can enter my eternal spiritual abode. The living entities are captured by the material energy when they try to compete with the Supreme Purusha. However, they desire to cooperate with me and facilitate my enjoyment. Then they enjoy the same pleasure as me. I am Bhagwan, Lord Krishna, the origin of both Paramatma and the Brahman effulgence. I am the transcendental chief person and all my activities are spiritual. Now Bhagwan has beautifully described himself here. I will repeat those words. Bhagwan says, however, when one desires to cooperate with me and facilitate my enjoyment, then they enjoy the same pleasure as me. I am Bhagwan, Lord Krishna, the origin of both Paramatma, which is a super soul, and the Brahman effulgence. I am the transcendental chief person and all my activities are spiritual. Kapila paused for a few moments, verse 37 now, and then said, you asked about time, which is fearful to everyone because it is the cause of constant transformation in the world. However, one who knows that time is Vishnu's feature is not afraid of its influence as the time factor. Lord Vishnu, the enjoyer of all sacrifices, is the master of all masters. So Vishnu is the another feature of time, and Vishnu is also the enjoyer of all sacrifices and is the master of all masters. The same Vishnu enters everyone's heart as Paramatma and maintains their existence. He causes the annihilation of every being through other beings. So this Leela is going on all around us. We can see everyone is getting killed. Everyone is getting killed by another person by arrangement of Lord Vishnu. Devahuti's hand came up to her chin as she sat in thought. Why is one who knows time is Vishnu not afraid of its influence? Does time not act on such people? Was it partial to them? Verse 39, Kapila said, no one is dear to the Supreme Lord in his form as time. He does not treat anyone as a friend or enemy. As time, he impartially creates, maintains, and destroys all bodies. Those who take shelter of Vishnu, however, are not afraid because as Paramatma in their hearts, he gives them inspiration how to act through all these changes of time in order to attain life's goal. Devahuti was still thoughtful. What did Kapila mean by saying time is the master of all masters? Verses 40 to 43, Kapila said, so as we said that line, that time is the master of all masters, suddenly the Hare Krishna Mahamantra came for this from the screen. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Verses 42 to 43, Kapila said, nature works under Vishnu's superintendence in his form of time. In obedience to time, the wind blows, the sun sends forth heat, Indra produces rain, and the stars shine. In strict submission to time, the trees, creepers, herbs, and seasonal plants and flowers blossom and fructify, each in its own season. Out of fear of time, the rivers flow, and the ocean never overflow. In compliance with time, fire burns, and the earth planet does not sink into the water of the universe despite her mountainous load. In obedience to time, the sky allows outer space to accommodate all the various planets, and the total universal body expands with its seven coverings. Verses 44 and 45, even the three guna avatars, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, act in accordance with the time's order in the matter of creation, maintenance, and destruction of the cosmos. Everything animate and inanimate within this universe is under their control as eternal time. Krishna governs this material creation, which is like the prison house for rebellious souls. And as time, he will destroy this phenomenal world. As time, he causes one person to give birth to another, and the god of death to take life. Time's influence in the material universe is so complete that at the dissolution of the universe, time will also destroy the lord of death, Yamaraj. Kapila stopped speaking. The sun was low in the sky, and he suggested they adjourn for the night. I shall return soon after sunrise. After his departure, Devahuti and her friends. So the transmission has finished here. Okay, I will After his departure, Devahuti and her friends went into the mansion. After refreshing themselves, they discussed Kapila's instructions. I was a bit confused about this whole idea of separatism, said Kshama. Me too, said Rangini. Kshama went on, I mean, does someone performing bhakti with a separate interest to Krishna get any benefit at all? Devahuti took a sip of water. I remember once having a conversation about this with Kardam. He told me that bhakti always produces a result, even when one petitions Krishna to fulfill his material desires. Really, said Medha, you mean he fulfills those desires? So this is what Krishna does. Even when we are not thinking of the interest of Krishna only in the bhakti, when we are just thinking of our material desires, Krishna fulfills all those desires. Yes, said Devahuti, but he does so in a way that one will eventually become free of them. The Lord is so kind, said Kshama, but I am still a bit confused. Kapila said that even the mode of goodness is a contamination. Yes, that's right, said Medha, because one desires liberation. So one is still selfish in the mode of goodness. Yes, I understand, said Kshema, but it seems the options are either to be separatist or to be on the platform of ecstatic love. What if I'm not yet experiencing spontaneous attraction for hearing about Krishna? Does that mean I must be a separatist? Devahuti replied, it all depends upon one's objective. The separatist in the mode of goodness desires his personal liberation. One should only desire to awaken his love for Krishna. What if I do desire liberation? Asked Rangini. What can I do about that? How can I stop being a separatist? We must hear from pure devotees, said Medha. Kapila made that clear yesterday. So this brings us to the end of chapter 29, Bhakti Yoga. And we were watching the live visuals from ISKCON Vrindavan, Sri Krishna Balaram Temple. Now it's the time for the offering, Rajbhoga for the Lordships. And today is also Akshay Tritiya and the start of the Chandan Yatra for 21 days, when Chandan is applied to the deities in the temples, and you can also do that at home for your deities, because it's very hot in the Indian subcontinent. So this is and Akshay Tritiya is also a very, very auspicious day. Anything you start on this day very auspiciously grows and grows, whether it's your bhakti, your hearing, your chanting, you're trying to read more or please Lord with any of the skills you have got. So I wish you all a very happy day ahead. Wish you happy Akshay Tritiya and Chandan Yatra. Please chant and be happy and stay safe. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.